Let's keep this on a tight loop and get back out there, Reyes.
Hello, it's Tom with Digital Foundry.
And this is Dave as well.
So, Call of Duty is coming to space with Infinite Warfare. This is built on the latest Infinity Ward engine, and, well, what have you noticed, Dave?
Well, in terms of resolution, the game seems to be running at native 1080p, but we've also noticed that in some scenes the frame buffer comes just under that.
Yeah, it's like 1008p, something in that region, which kind of falls in line with the last Call of Duty games we had. A dynamic frame buffer which occasionally dipped below that native number on PS4, but not an awful lot of the time.
No, it's interesting because this is using the same engine that powered Black Ops 3, so it's not so surprising that we're noticing a dynamic frame buffer in play here, but the results seem to be generally very good in terms of sticking to that 1080p target, from what we've seen so far at least.
Yeah, we must stress this is an early E3 build. We've taken this footage straight from the E3 trailer, lossless feed that we can then plug into our tools to get a good, accurate frame rate analysis. Now, speaking of frame rate, we have of course shown the initial hangar area running at 40 to 60 FPS, but as we've moved out into the frontiers of space, we've got more or less 60 FPS lock, occasional dips here and there. But one of the more surprising aspects of this is the lack of tearing, which we had in the last few Call of Duty games. That would pop up right at the top of the screen to make sure frames could be delivered as fast as they could, even if there was an artifact up top. But there are some dips, very noticeable dips in fact, as we move later on.
And looking at this compared to Black Ops 3, it's actually a pretty big improvement here, considering Black Ops 3 actually had a lot of tearing all across the screen on both consoles, which was really distracting. What seems to be interesting here is when we're in space, the frame rates seem to hold 60 FPS really nicely, but as we go into the hangar or indeed breach into another spaceship, we actually start seeing performance getting impacted. So I'm guessing what's happening here is there's less geometry to be rendered and less effects, and that's basically giving the engine an easier time.
Yeah, it's a much easier ride, and it does look a whole lot smoother than this. It's about 40 FPS all through this section in fact, but in its defense we have analysed previous Call of Duty games in its E3 build and seen an improvement later on. I think we saw that with Black Ops 3 as well.
I guess the question is whether or not we're going to be looking at a sort of game of two halves where we get really good performance in these space sections, and then whenever the action kicks off in more detailed areas, it's going to be harder to achieve 60. But yeah, there's still a couple of months of optimization, so they might improve on what we're seeing here.
Right, that's about all we've got for now. If you found this video useful, please do give us that like or subscribe, and until next time, thanks for watching.
Depressurize and grab hold!